The morning began quietly in a small village near the edge of a dusty road. Jesus walked into a simple outdoor kitchen where a wooden table stood beneath the shade of an old tree. The sun was still low, and the air carried the smell of fresh herbs, warm earth, and burning wood. On the table were sacks of flour, a clay jar of water, a bowl of olive oil, fresh tomatoes, herbs, and a small basket of cheese. Jesus looked at the simple ingredients with a calm and grateful heart. There was no palaced kitchen. There were no golden plates. There were no servants rushing around him. There was only a humble table, a warm fire, and food that could become a blessing. Nearby, several poor children sat beside a stone wall. Their clothes were worn, their faces were tired. Some of them watched Jesus with quiet curiosity. Others looked down at the ground, too hungry to speak. Jesus saw them before he began his work. He noticed the thin hands, silent eyes, and the way the smallest child held his stomach. Jesus did not turn away. Jesus stepped to the table and opened the sack of flour. He poured the flour into a wide wooden bowl. The white flour rose like a soft cloud in the morning light. Then Jesus added a little salt. He poured warm water slowly into the center of the flour. He added olive oil with steady hands. Then he began to mix everything together. At first, the flour and water seemed separate. The dough looked rough and uneven, but Jesus kept working patiently. His hands moved with care. He pressed the dough. He folded it. He turned it. He pressed it again. The dry flour slowly disappeared into the soft mixture. The dough began to come together. The children watched from a distance. One little girl stood and stepped closer. She had dark hair, dusty sandals, and eyes full of wonder. Jesus looked at her kindly. The girl did not ask for food. She simply watched his hands. Jesus continued kneading the dough on the wooden table. He pushed it forward with the palms of his hands. Then he folded it back toward himself. Again and again, he worked the dough until it became smooth and strong. The movement was simple. The movement was steady. The movement was almost like a quiet prayer. The little girl looked at the dough and smiled for the first time that morning. Jesus divided the dough into smaller pieces. He covered them with a clean cloth and let them rest. While the dough rested, Jesus prepared the tomatoes. He washed them carefully in a clay bowl of water. He sliced them with a small knife. The red juice ran across the wooden board. The smell of fresh tomatoes filled the air. Jesus crushed some of the tomatoes into a simple sauce. He added herbs from a small bundle. He mixed in a little olive oil. The sauce became bright, fragrant, and full of color. Then Jesus prepared the fire. He placed dry wood into the clay oven. He arranged the sticks carefully so the flame would burn evenly. A spark became a flame. The flame became a steady fire. The oven grew warm. Smoke rose gently into the blue sky. The children moved closer now. They could smell the bread-like dough. They could smell the tomato sauce. They could feel the warmth of the oven. Their eyes followed every movement Jesus made. When the dough was ready, Jesus uncovered it. The small pieces had become soft and risen. Jesus took one piece and placed it on the table. He dusted the table with flour. Then he pressed the dough gently with his fingers. He stretched it into a round shape. He did not rush. He did not tear it. He shaped it with patience. The round dough became thin in the center and thicker around the edge. Jesus spread tomato sauce across the surface. The red sauce shone brightly against the pale dough. He added pieces of cheese. He placed herbs over the top. Then he carried the pizza carefully toward the hot oven. The children leaned forward. Jesus slid the pizza onto the heated stone. The dough began to rise at the edges. The sauce began to bubble. The cheese softened and melted. The smell became rich and comforting. For a moment, no one spoke. Even the birds seemed quiet. The first pizza baked until the crust turned golden. The cheese stretched softly. The tomatoes glowed deep red. Jesus placed the pizza on a wooden board and let it cool. Then he cut it into small pieces. He did not take the first piece for himself. Jesus turned toward the children. He called them closer with a gentle smile. The children hesitated at first. They were not used to being invited. They were not used to being noticed. But Jesus waited patiently. The smallest boy came forward first. Jesus placed a warm slice into his hands. The boy looked at it as if it were treasure. Then Jesus gave a slice to the little girl. He gave another to a child with torn sleeves. He gave another to a child who had been sitting alone. One by one, every child received food. The children sat beneath the tree and ate slowly. Their faces changed. The silence became laughter. The fear became comfort. The hunger became peace. Jesus returned to the table and began making another pizza. He kneaded more dough. He shaped more rounds. He spread more tomato sauce. He added more cheese and herbs. He placed each pizza into the oven with the same care as the first. Jesus did not treat the poor children as a problem. Jesus treated them as guests. He made the food as if he were preparing a meal for honored visitors. Every movement showed love. Every slice carried kindness. Every warm piece of pizza became a message that the children were not forgotten. As the day grew brighter, more children came from nearby streets. Some came barefoot. Some carried younger brothers or sisters. Some stood at the edge of the garden, unsure whether they were allowed to join. Jesus saw them all. He kept working. The flour covered his hands. The heat of the oven warmed his face. The table became busy with dough, sauce, herbs, and baskets. Still, Jesus remained peaceful. He shaped each pizza with patience. He baked each one until the crust was golden. He cut each one into pieces. He gave each piece away. An older woman stopped near the road and watched the children eating. Her eyes filled with tears. She had seen many people pass by hungry children. But Jesus had stopped. Jesus had worked. Jesus had fed them with his own hands. The children did not only receive food that day, they received dignity. They received attention. They received the feeling that their lives mattered. One little boy held his slice carefully and looked at Jesus. The boy asked why Jesus was giving the food away. Jesus looked at the children seated beneath the tree. Then Jesus looked at the warm oven, the flour on the table, and the empty baskets slowly filling again. Jesus answered with kindness. Food becomes more beautiful when it is shared. The boy listened quietly. He looked at his slice. Then he broke off a small piece and gave it to his younger sister. Jesus smiled. The lesson had already begun to grow. By afternoon, the hungry children had eaten. The wooden table was dusty with flour. The oven fire had softened into glowing coals. The garden smelled of bread, tomatoes, herbs, and smoke. Jesus gathered the remaining pieces and placed them in a basket. He gave them to the oldest children to carry to others who could not come. The children walked away carefully, carrying food through the village. Jesus watched them go with peaceful eyes. The simple meal had become more than pizza. It had become an act of mercy. It had become a lesson in kindness. It had become a sign of love made visible. As the sun moved lower in the sky, Jesus cleaned the table. He folded the cloth. He put away the bowl. He brushed flour from his hands. The work was finished for the day, but the kindness would continue. The children would remember the warmth of the bread. They would remember the taste of tomatoes and herbs. They would remember the way Jesus looked at them. They would remember that Jesus did not ignore their hunger. They would remember that Jesus used ordinary ingredients to show us extraordinary love. That day, Jesus kneaded dough with patience. Jesus baked pizza with care. Jesus fed poor children with compassion. And in a humble outdoor kitchen, a simple meal became a beautiful reminder. Love is not only spoken, love is prepared, love is served, love is shared. And when Jesus gives, even the simplest bread can feel like a feast.